Hey everyone, welcome back. So today we are going,
Deep diving.
deep diving right into AI.
Absolutely.
And specifically, this company DeepSeek.
Yeah. DeepSeek out of nowhere, right?
Yeah, out of nowhere, and they are just like making everybody scramble right now.
Yeah.
And the source material we have for this is a really great video report from DW Business.
Yeah, they did a good job.
And so you've all probably heard of AI chatbots at this point.
Right. ChatGPT.
Right, ChatGPT brought all that.
Yeah.
But this is like the story of,
An underdog.
yeah, like a total underdog coming out of nowhere.
And they're moving fast.
Yeah.
So fast that they're already the #1 free app in the Apple App Store, surpassing ChatGPT.
Yeah, I downloaded it, and it is it's impressive.
It is.
But here's the thing. They only spent like $6 million.
About that, yeah. 6 million.
And meanwhile, like U.S. companies are spending billions.
Billions with a B.
Yeah, billions with a B.
Yeah.
So how did they do that?
Yeah, did they do that?
It's a great question, right?
Yeah. And I think it reveals a really fundamental difference in approach.
Okay.
So they're using like slightly older, less powerful chips.
Okay.
Partly because of U.S. export bans,
Right.
which you might think would put them at a disadvantage.
Yeah, for sure.
But they've kind of turned that into a strength.
So instead of just like brute force computing power, they had to like be
Like-
more clever.
Yeah, they've really focused on optimizing their algorithms and data usage, like squeezing every ounce of performance they can out of the hardware.
It's pretty brilliant, actually.
It is. It's very smart. And,
Yeah.
we should remember that this is a company operating in a very different environment.
Right.
Where information is very tightly controlled.
Right. Very different approach to internet freedom.
Yeah, and I think this is crucial to understanding DeepSeek.
Okay.
On the surface, you have the DeepSeek app,
Right.
which is very much in line with how China likes to control the internet.
Okay.
It's heavily censored,
Right.
especially when it comes to sensitive political topics.
So like Tiananmen Square, all of that.
Yeah, you're not going to get any information about that through the app.
Yeah. Okay.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The underlying DeepSeek model.
Right. The brains of it.
Yeah, the brains of the operation. The algorithm itself is open source and uncensored?
Wait, so anyone can just like download that?
Yeah.
The same one that's powering the censored app?
Yeah, they've made it available for anyone to use.
Wow.
Modify, do whatever they want with it.
That is a big deal.
It is a big deal, and this is what has a lot of people in the tech world kind of freaking out.
Yeah, I can see why.
It's like they've offered this glimpse behind the curtain of China's AI development,
Right.
but then they've also just like put this incredibly powerful tool in the hands of developers all over the world.
Wow. So what are people saying about that? I mean, how are they interpreting that?
I mean, that's what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
But it's worth noting that, Donald Trump has called this a wake-up call for America. And he's announced this massive $500 billion project to build AI infrastructure.
So they're trying to play catch up?
Sounds like it.
I mean, do you think U.S. companies are like genuinely threatened?
Well, I mean, did you see Nvidia's stock price?
Yeah, it tanked.
Dropped $600 billion.
Yeah.
Biggest one-day loss in U.S. history.
Wow.
So I think it's safe to say they're taking this seriously.
Yeah, like the game just changed and they didn't even realize it.
Yeah. And maybe the rules are changing too.
How so?
Well, DeepSeek's embrace of open source.
Right.
That's a stark contrast to how a lot of U.S. tech giants operate.
So they're being like, hey, everybody come use this.
Yeah.
But then U.S. companies are much more like,
Closed doors.
yeah, our little secret sauce.
Yeah. Trade secrets.
Yeah. Totally different. It's a very different philosophy.
Yeah.
And it raises some really interesting questions about, how AI is going to be developed going forward.
Yeah. Is it going to be this like everybody collaborate?
Right.
Or is it going to be like,
The Wild West.
yeah, exactly. Everyone for themselves.
Well, and which one leads to like faster breakthroughs?
Right.
Which one is better for the world?
Yeah.
We're kind of watching this play out in real time.
We are. And it's fascinating.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got this underdog story.
Right.
We've got like the tech landscape
Getting shaken up.
totally shaken up. And then you've got like potential international tension.
Yeah. This is getting good.
This is getting good. All right. So let's get into what the experts are saying about all of this.
Let's do it.
So what are the experts saying about all this? I mean, is DeepSeek's open source approach, is that something that they think is going to be the way of the future?
It's a big question, right?
Yeah.
And there are definitely some experts who believe that open source is going to be the key to accelerating innovation
Yeah.
because it fosters collaboration, right?
Right.
Developers all around the world can contribute, build upon each other's work.
Yeah. It's like a global brain trust.
Exactly. And they point to DeepSeek as proof
Right. They're like, look at what they did.
Yeah, $6 million, and they're at the top of the charts.
Yeah.
But of course, there's always another side to these things.
Right. So what are the concerns with open source?
Well, one of the big ones is misuse.
Okay.
If you're just making this powerful AI model freely available,
Right.
you're losing control over how it's used.
Yeah, you don't know who's going to get their hands on it and what they're going to do with it.
Exactly. And that's kind of a scary thought.
Yeah. Could be used for some pretty bad stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's not just like, oh, this is good, this is bad. It's much more complicated.
Yeah, it's really about finding the right balance
Right.
between openness and responsibility.
Responsibility, yeah.
And that's a debate that's not going away anytime soon.
No. Especially as this stuff gets more and more powerful.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So beyond like the ethical concerns, there's also the geopolitical side of this whole thing.
Absolutely. I mean, you can't talk about DeepSeek without talking about the fact that this has definitely rattled the U.S. tech industry.
Right. And like you said, Trump is already trying to throw money at the problem.
Yeah, that $500 billion for AI infrastructure.
Does that signal like a shift in power, though? I mean, is the U.S. really losing its edge in tech?
It's a good question. I mean, Silicon Valley has been seen as the center of the tech universe for so long.
Right.
But that might be changing.
Yeah, it's kind of like the old guard being challenged by this new wave.
Yeah, and this has implications beyond just, who has the coolest gadgets.
Right, because we're talking about economic power, political power, all of that.
Absolutely. AI is going to transform everything.
It already is in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and whoever controls it is going to have a major advantage in this century.
So it really is a high-stakes game.
It is. But amidst all this talk of competition,
right?
Is there any room for collaboration? I mean, could the U.S. and China actually work together on this?
That's a great question, and I feel like a lot of people are hoping for that.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, despite all the political tension, there are areas where it would benefit both countries to collaborate.
Like, what would be an example?
Well, one that comes to mind is developing ethical guidelines for AI development.
Okay, so instead of it being this like, one country wins, one country loses, it's more like we all got to work together on this.
Yeah, this is a challenge for humanity, not just for individual nations.
Right. It's going to impact everyone.
Exactly. So let's work together to make sure that AI is used for good.
Yeah, I like that sentiment a lot.
I think it's important, and it's a good reminder that even with all this talk of competition and disruption, technology can also be a unifying force.
Yeah, that's a good point. But even if there is some collaboration, there's still going to be like pretty big differences in approach.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Different cultures, different values. Those are going to shape how AI develops.
Yeah. I mean, could we end up with like different AI ecosystems?
It's definitely a possibility.
That's wild.
Yeah, and that's something we're going to delve into in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay. I'm ready for it. All right. So different AI ecosystems. Paint me a picture. What might that actually look like?
Well, it's hard to say for sure, right? But I think we can look at like the existing cultural and political landscapes to get some ideas.
Okay.
So for instance, like imagine an AI ecosystem that's all about like efficiency and social control.
So kind of like what we're seeing with the DeepSeek app in China.
Yeah, potentially, right? In a society where the government has a lot of control over information and individual behavior, you could see AI being used to like reinforce those existing structures.
Right. So like AI-powered surveillance systems that are even more sophisticated than what we have now.
Exactly. Or algorithms that can like predict and maybe even prevent dissent.
That sounds kind of dystopian.
Yeah, to some people for sure. But others might say that it creates a more stable and harmonious society.
Right. It all depends on your perspective.
Exactly.
Okay. So what about like the opposite? What would an AI ecosystem that values like individual freedom and creativity look like?
That's a great question. I think in that world, AI would be used primarily to empower individuals, to amplify their creative potential, and to break down barriers to information and opportunity.
So like AI as a tool for liberation.
Exactly.
Instead of control.
Right. And in that kind of ecosystem, you might see AI being used to personalize education or to like facilitate artistic expression or even to connect people across cultures and borders.
That sounds pretty utopian.
It does, right?
Yeah.
But I think the reality is probably going to be somewhere in between these two extremes.
Yeah, probably somewhere in the messy middle.
Exactly. It's rarely black and white.
Right.
The development of AI is going to be shaped by so many different factors.
Right.
And the outcomes are likely to be really complex and nuanced.
Yeah, the one thing that's clear, though, is that This is about way more than just technology.
Absolutely.
We're talking about like the future of society.
Yeah, the choices we make today are going to have a huge impact on the kind of AI-powered world we create tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a powerful thought.
It is. It's a call to action. We need to be having these conversations thinking about the ethics and actively shaping the future of AI in a way that aligns with our values.
So if there's one thing that you want listeners to take away from this whole conversation, what would it be?
I think it's that the future of AI isn't set in stone.
Okay.
It's being written right now.
Yeah.
By us, by the decisions we make, the conversations we have, and the values that we prioritize.
So we're not just passengers on this train. We're actually the ones laying down the tracks.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah. That's a little bit daunting, but also pretty exciting.
It is, yeah. There's a lot of responsibility there and also a lot of opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, this has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
Yeah, there's so much more to explore.
Definitely. And I'm sure we'll be revisiting this topic as the story continues to unfold.
I'm sure we will. It's moving fast.
Yeah, it is moving fast.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and stay curious.